Hello everyone, I hope you're fine. I'm going to answer some of the questions you share on Instagram. I will answer the questions from my Patreon especially. So I'm going to start with the question from Jessica Maron, I think. It says, is there such a thing as a facial wall in real life? If not, what is your inspiration for it and how does it function? The facial wall doesn't exist in our universe, but it exists on GremoryLand universe. Here there is a professor called Mir Faisal that is a professor of astronomy and quantum physics. So I thought that in GremoryLand universe this professor developed a device that is called the facial wall. The facial wall detects as coincidence between universe, and this coincidence can be like events, important events, or similar characters. For example, you realize that Siggy and Rami share some coincidences, and that's why the facial wall showed the symbol of the star. Jessica Maroon also asked, Becca seemed like a very important character. You mentioned she was something of a center or a hub, and the group split apart when she died. However, I feel like I don't know a lot about her background, Why was she so important? Why is there only one echo of her in the universe? Actually, it's less important than the rest of the characters since she is unique in GremoryLand universe. This can happen to many more people, that there is not a closed universe that you can connect with. So there was not a similar character in closed universes. I suppose you are talking about one of the final episodes where Leslie entered into the Happy Family attraction again, and there is this panel that in the background you can see dolls representing the characters of the series, and some of them are crying black tears. This means that the dolls that are crying black tears, they are actually dead. You can't see Margot's face. She's also crying black tears because she died in the first season when she fell from the roller coaster attraction. Since it was a twist in the final episode, I didn't show Margot's face crying black tears. Jessica also asked, you seem to suggest that there are links between characters and universes, such as Rami and Siggy as the star. Are there other connections? In GremoryLand, there are not more connections, but there will be more in my following series. Next question, Michael Nestic says, so my question is, what power Gremory? Did the hatred of the characters enhance their powers or draw them initially to their universe, or did Gremory always exist there? How many other parks exist before the ones we were able to see? Well, this is gonna be a little long, so I took some notes here. Gremory comes out of the disc of existence and managed to enter the universe of the series through Tim and Eva. When Eva dies, Tim feels responsible for the death of her daughter and begins to obsess with internet articles. He ends believing that if he manages to leave the universe, he will be able to see the time and space as a physical object, like an open book. And actually this is true because we are reading the series as an open book. We can choose which episode we want to read. And we can read an episode that Eva is still alive. So this is what Teams want to reach. He wants to leave series universe in order to see time and space like we are seeing it. So he can travel in time and see Eva again. In order that Tim can leave his universe, he has to exceed the speed of light. but the closer he is to the speed of light, the bigger is his mass, that it tends to infinite. That's why Tim says that we are like trapped in our reality, because it seems that there is like a safety rule, so the beings inside a universe can't leave their universe. Otherwise, we will be able to travel in time and we will be able to see other universes. So Gremory is like an entity that comes from outside of universe, attracted by Tim and Eva's suffering. There were two parts in the series. The first one is when Leslie, Bruno, and Zoe escape from GremoryLand in the ending of the second season. After that, the park loses its power because Eva is dead, and Gremory can't exist without a seed. Eva was the seed that Tim used to build GremoryLand. If no one read GremoryLand, the series couldn't continue. So Gremory is empowered by the reader's decision to continue reading the series. Next question. Lolly Molly says, hello, I've got a couple of questions right now. First, who was your overall favorite character? Which character arc of the story was difficult to write? Which parts were easy to write? And lastly, since Eva and Margot are practically dead, does that mean that Tim is also dead after GremoryLand disappears in the final episodes? Well, one of my favorite characters is Margot, because when you start to empathize with her, he does something horrible, something awful, and you can trust her as a reader. She's very complex character, and I think it's the kind of person that is a victim of herself. The more she wants to reach happiness, the more she moves away from it. The most difficult part to write for me was the whole thing about the fourth wall. I love surrealism, but at the same time I have to think about the people that are reading my stories. So I had to find a balance between something I love and something that the reader can enjoy. Eva was resurrected by the first part, and Eva and Margot were resurrected by the second part. That's why Eva looks like tired, like she has a very bad appearance, because she was resurrected twice, and her body, I suppose, she can't stand that. So in the ending of GremoryLand disappears, and all the people that were resurrected are dead now. Tim died in the park and is still dead. Next question. Yes, Phil asks, were most of the characters in GremoryLand once alive, including the robots? Whatever happened to the remaining mascots? GremoryLand is entertainment and manipulation, so it plays with readers in order that you can think that at the beginning everything could have a rational explanation, but actually I showed some hints that there was something paranormal behind. One of them is the doll of Jeff in the Museum of the Slippers. There is a rail that Jeff can move, but in the first season there is a part of the attraction that there is not rail. So actually when Jeff shot Becca, he was out of the rail, like we saw in the final season. The mascots were used as dolls for Gremory purposes, and actually the mascots didn't want to kill the characters. Actually, if you can read the episode where Zoe, Jax, and Rami are inside a farmhouse, you can see that the ram is chasing Rami, especially because Gremory wants that Rami unleash his violence against Jax. Gremory is using the mascots in order to trigger the characters inside GremoryLand, especially Rami in this case. Another question, Bibi Sheng asks, I have so many questions. I really wanted more about Becca, but she kind of fell off the radar. Well, I explained this a little. She was not as important as you thought. And she was a really nice character, so Gremory couldn't get anything from her. Was all the friends mocking Eva after her death true, or just a Gremory thing? It seems a bit forced. Which scene was the most fun to draw? Was this the ending you expected? Yes, the scene where Eva's friends are laughing for receiving the picture in the phone of Eva being sexually assaulted by the mascots is fake, is a lie, is a way that Gremory uses to manipulate Eva. It doesn't make any sense that Zoe is suffering the abuse from her father and also is laughing because three men are sexually assaulting one of her friends. We can think that it makes sense that Jack laugh about something like that, but actually in the ending of the second season we can see that Jack is worried about what happened. He's sad because Eva died, so he even left the chat where his former friends were sharing these horrible pictures. It doesn't make any sense that Jack is enjoying these pictures either. Bombshell asks, did you really left who lived and who died up to the reader's reaction? Or were you Gremory too, in that you had a basic idea of who you wanted to survive and who finally wasn't gonna make it? Well, I have a script with all the episodes of the series, but there are a few details that could change depending on readers' comments. However, this is more an illusion than a real thing, because as you said, I'm Gremory too, so I'm interested to trigger the characters and move them like dolls. There is another question from Jenny. Is the fishbowl theme going to appear in your next work as well? If Gremory is the author, seeing as your name is on Margot's shirt, is everyone inside the story truly just fictional characters? Or are they supposed to be real people who were just unfortunate enough to become Gremory's playthings? What exactly does Margot shoot at in the last episode? Since she can see the lens, does she shoot the audience? This is gonna be long, so I took some notes as well. The fishbowl is a way to explain that we are inside our dimension, and in order to leave it, we have to jump. In the series, there is a theory that says that in order to jump, we need to exceed the speed of light. But the closer we get to the speed of light, the greater our mass will be, which would tend to infinity. That's why Tim says this happens because our reality is built so we can never leave it. So we can't never leave our dimension. Actually, in Malvina's therapy, when Aldrin tries to exceed the speed of light, he dies because he is a fish in its reality, inside his dimension, and outside it, he couldn't exist. And actually, there is a sentence in one of the team's dreams that the gramophone says that in order to live our universe, we have to lose our mass. We have to lose the material world. Otherwise, our mass will tend to infinity. The bad thing about creating very twisted stories is when I have to explain them in English, I struggle a lot because I don't have a very good English level. So actually the characters outside GremoryLand Park exist, but we couldn't see them. I'm going to start with Instagram questions. So the first one is from El Springs. It says, is there a meaning to the clothes Zoe is wearing? And I caught it in other characters, but not her. Actually, the pink triangle was a very bad symbol in the past, since the Nazis used this symbol to identify gay people in the concentration camp badges. But nowadays, it's a positive symbol of LGBTQ movement. Also, a reverse triangle is a symbol of feminism, so I think it fits with Zoe's character. Next question, Brittany says, If Zoe pushed the button, what would have happened to Rami since it was his test? Would he have been Fred? Another question from the same person is, where was Rami going to be taken to? He said, they will take me where people like me belong, or something along those lines. Where is that? If Zoe had pressed the red button, she had ended up becoming what she criticized the most, and Rami will be right about his views about violence. So Rami's success is seeing he was right about violence, and Zoe was actually an hypocrite person. Rami fails the test, so he's dragged to the depths of GremoryLand, where the witch will torture him like she did with the mascots, until he loses his humanity. Next question. Alba says, what happened between Margot and Zoe? Is Margot just jealous, or is there something else? Love the comic, by the way. Thank you, Alba. I'm glad you like the comic. Bruno likes Zoe, but I think in not a romantic way. It's just Bruno has a better bond with Zoe than with Margot, and Margot knows that. So Margot is afraid that Zoe push her away from Bruno, as she thought with Mia too. That's why Margot tries to kill Zoe in the first season, as she did with Mia. I think Margot doesn't love Bruno. Margot thinks that she loves Bruno, but actually she loves what Bruno represents for her, the nice family she never had. Next question from Day Lily. What actually happened to Margot after she shot Gremory? This is gonna be long, so I took some notes as well. Margot died when she fell from the roller coaster in the first season, but she was resurrected to be a fertilizer of the new park. Therefore, she can only exist within the system she gave her life again, the park. The new park, actually. Leslie said, in a toxic system, only psychopaths govern. That's why Gremory chooses Margot to manage the new park, because she's like a psychopath. However, Margot, even she's a very toxic and dangerous character, after the words of Bruno, that he was crying actually, she realized that there are things more important than herself, and for the first time in her life, she puts someone else's welfare first, as her father did when she was a kid, and she enjoyed the best years of her life. When Margot shots the lens, she sacrificed herself to save Bruno's life. It's also a way to remove herself from existence, because she realized that she's dangerous for Bruno and she's only creating pain on him. Since Margot existed thanks to the new park of GremoryLand, she disappears with the new park. Next question. Miss7Dan says, you are awesome, by the way. How are you feeling now that the story is over? Thank you a lot. When I finished GremoryLand, I was happy because I needed to rest a little, and I really like to see my projects finished. This also helps me to see the whole project with some perspective in order to improve some aspects in my following projects. Yumemochi says, what happened to Judy, Ray, Godric, and Paul? Were they brainwashed, controlled, etc.? Paul, Godric, and Ray were tortured in order to lose their humanity and become the mascots of the park. Were there for a while. However, when Zoe, Bruno, and Leslie left GremoryLand in the end of the second season, GremoryLand lose its power, and part of the bodies that the police found in GremoryLand were the mascots. The plot was sick. Can you talk about what inspired you to write the story and some things that you didn't really plan on writing originally? And there is also a similar comment that says, what inspired you to create GremoryLand at the first place? The first pitch I sent to Webtoon was called Hellbroth Island, and it was about an island that contained some attractions. Actually, it was like GremoryLand inside an island, but Webtoon asked me for more information, and I changed my mind, and I decided to do the opposite, include the island inside GremoryLand. There were some different things in the original idea. Gremory wasn't a custom, it was a witch, but I decided to represent Gremory as a custom because actually Gremory doesn't have any power. He always needs that someone is enjoying his spark in order to continue growing. The following question is from Paxtree. Who is your favorite character, or which one reminds you of yourself the most? Margot is my favorite character because actually it's a very complex character, so it creates more entertainment, but she's very different from me. I'm not as a character inside GremoryLand. There are parts of me in some of them, but I couldn't choose one of them that represents myself the most. I suppose I feel more represented in the ones that never murdered anyone. The next question is, this must be the most interesting question here, but I'm curious, who is the lady on episode 66? Is she one of your readers? Congrats on finishing this webtoon, by the way. Thank you a lot. Yes, she's one of my readers and actually is also my friend, Lucia. The next question is in Spanish, so I'm going to answer it in Spanish as well, and I will include some subtitles in English. Hola, ¿qué pasó con las otras dos mascotas de GremoryLand? Fan a muerte, que lo sepas. Gracias por leer GremoryLand y me alegro que te haya gustado. Bueno, lo he dicho antes, pero bueno, lo he dicho en inglés, así que lo voy a repetir en español. Las mascotas eran parte del primer parque de atracciones y una vez que el parque quedó deshabilitado, las mascotas dejaron de ser útiles, por lo tanto la policía encontró sus cuerpos muertos en el propio parque. The next question is, any other stories planned? I'm currently working on a new series and I sent the pitch to Webtoon, but I'm still waiting for their response. I hope they accept it, and as soon as I know something, I will let you know. The next question says, is Team based on Tiny Team? I love GremoryLand. It was awesome. Thank you, I'm happy you like it. I'm a fan of Tiny Team and I'm a fan of Tim Burton, so Team is a mix of both. Okay, the next question says, I guess your next story also has the same theme as the past two, because it's a conclusion, something like escaping the fishbowl and exceeding the speed of light. My third series will have a new plot. It's a self-contained story, so it's not a sequel, prequel, or something like that. It's placed in a new universe, but there are connections with my previous works. The next question says, will you keep making comics after you finish your horror trilogy? I hope you do. Of course, I can't stop creating, but after the horror trilogy, I have in mind to change the genre a little. I would like to create a story that I have in mind actually, that is a dystopic thriller. It has some creepy moments. I will continue creating horror stories. Actually, I have a long list of horror short stories I would like to create someday. The next question says, what happened to the other characters? Did their story end? Because they don't exist, because we don't see them anymore. I can't help but wish for a redemption arc for some of these characters as well. Yes, Zoe, Bruno, Leslie, Rami, they all exist in GremoryLand universe, in the series, not in the park, because the park is gone. The next question says, what is your next work? When we can expect it? And also, I love your work. I would like to start the new series as soon as possible, but Webtoon has their own pace, and actually it's taking time that they accept my pitch. I sent it like 2 months ago, and it will take even more time if they are interested that they send me the contract. But I really don't know. It depends on Webtoon if they are interested. In the next question, Rosidoli says, was it hard or emotionally taxing reading such a dark story? There are parts that were difficult to write, especially the ones related to abuse. Actually, creating GremoryLand was even harder than creating Malvina's Therapy. In my opinion, color adds a new dimension to the story, to the art. So I had to learn many things related to color, and this took time and a lot of work. I had to learn to delegate tasks to my assistants in order that I can create longer episodes. The pandemic didn't help, and actually an important person in my life passed away, so I struggled a little while I was creating GremoryLand, but I'm fine now, so I'm excited for the new series. The next question says, are you a fan of horror parks or amusement parks in general? Yes, I love horror parks, and I love, of course, horror attractions. And actually, when I visit an amusement park, I always try to look for the horror attraction because I enjoy it a lot. And that's why when I was a child, I wanted to create my own horror park. I like the idea of creating my own horror park with all my stories. Can you imagine entering into my park and taking a photo with Malvina or Gremory? It could be awesome, I think. The next question says, in the finale you say that Gremory was a way to cope with some real life stuff. Was there a way the comic helped you heal by the end? If so, how? Well, my stories help me to organize my thoughts a little and help me to reach some conclusions, and sometimes I vent about things I don't like. The thing is, in my childhood, I had to separate my emotional part than my rational part because this helped me to overcome some bad experience. And right now, sometimes it's difficult for me to understand why I'm feeling something and where some emotions come from. So while I'm creating a series, it's a way that helps me to be introspective and connect with my own emotional part. The next question says, how much time have you been drawing, and do you have any tips for beginners? I drew a lot when I was a kid, but I left it when I was a teenager because people were telling me, oh, you won't be able to make money with art. They were obviously wrong. I started drawing again when I was 24 years old, and I didn't stop. Now I'm 32 years old and I'm enjoying this a lot, and I would like to do this always. I'm not a very good teacher, so my only tip is that you have to draw almost every day in order to improve your drawing skills. Don't be ashamed of using references or copy others' work. I mean, there is not a unique way to learn, but it's true that everything helps. Try to learn some anatomy, perspective. There are a bunch of tutorials, a bunch of tips everywhere on internet. If you do this constantly, you will see improvements on. The next question says, I love the way you put so much detail into the webtoon. How did you avoid art block and manage to do all that? I usually don't have art blocks. My issue is I have a lot of ideas and I don't have time to draw them. And I'm afraid that I won't be able to create all these stories because I will die. And I think I said that, but I have a long list of short horror stories I would like to create. The next question says, why were Margot and Becca chosen to be at the park? They did nothing to Eva. And what was the first time that Gremory saved Margot's life, I suppose? In fact, when Eva fell from the cliff, and she died, Gremory contacted with her and he showed some manipulated images to her. In these images, you can see that all the friends, Eva's friends, are laughing while she's being sexually assaulted. And as I said, these images are a manipulation from Gremory. In one of these images, you can see Becca and Zoe enjoying this picture. So that's why Becca is in the park. The important question here, and I think it's a very good question, is why Margot is in the park if she is not even in these fake pictures. Margot was saved by Gremory because when she was suffering an attack in the dirty apartment that she was living alone in the city, there is an image that suggests that Margot wanted to commit suicide. Suddenly, she receives an invitation from GremoryLand. So actually, Gremory saved her life. If she never have received the invitation, she would have committed suicide. So Gremory didn't use a fake image of Margot because actually he was interested in Margot. He knew that if something was wrong with Eva and Tim, Margot could be someone in charge of GremoryLand, as it happened in the end of the series. The next question says, could you point out some references, explanations like you did for Melvina's therapy? Other than that, thank you so much for your art. You are a genius for creating scripts and sceneries, and your drawings are beautiful. Thank you a lot for your comment. It encouraged me to continue creating. Actually, I've been doing that for years in my Patreon account. I've been sharing some details, explanation there. I decided to do this because these explanations took me a lot of time, and actually it's just an extra for the ones more interested into my stories, that they want to know everything about them, while they are helping me to pay my assistants and invest more in my works. The next question says, who is Chandler, the mascot asked in the answer game? The spelling might be wrong. There is a similar question that says, who is Chandler from the Truth game? Chandler's name is mentioned at the multiple choice as the mascot asks Chandler's job. Who is Chandler? Chandler is a reference to the TV series Friends, that is a comedy. So I include a joke in the story. The thing is not only a joke. Actually, Friends TV series doesn't exist in the universe of GremoryLand because it's a different universe. And actually there is another big difference in GremoryLand dimension. The special theory of relativity was published by Mileva Maric instead of her husband Albert Einstein. The following question says, do you think you will survive GremoryLand? If I'm realistic, I'm a clumsy person and I think I would die soon. But it also depends on the readers. So would you like I survive in GremoryLand? And finally, the final question. Aquarius Ann asks, who is the parents of the baby? Is it Zoe and Bruno? Maybe the baby is from someone else, someone that maybe we don't even know. However, there is a little secret inside this final picture that explains a lot about the story. So we are going to look it closer because actually Bruno's baby is... Sorry for the joke, I needed to do it. So that's all for today. Sorry if I didn't choose some of your questions. I choose the ones that seemed more important. Thank you a lot for reading and supporting my work. I'm very happy of having readers like you, and I hope you enjoy my following works as well. So that's all. Thank you and see you soon. Bye!